Holy City Center Radio. It is episode 134, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is Monday, June 12th, 2023. Well, it's Monday. Hope your day isn't too bad. Start of the week, always rough, but hopefully your weekend was amazing. Looks like, pretty much all around we had really good weather. I know there was a little bit of drizzles in some places, but for the most part, warm and sunny. So I hope you enjoyed whatever it was that you got into this weekend. And I also hope this week isn't too shabby for you either. We got lots to talk about. First, I went out and did something after, basically laying low for a little bit. Granted, last week I went to 2 concerts, but, the rest of the week just kind of lay low, doing my thing, doing work. But went to another show. This was a comedy show, not a traditional stand-up show. It was hosted by Samantha Bee, who you may remember from being a correspondent on The Daily Show when Jon Stewart was there. And also she had her own late night show called Full Frontal with Samantha Bee. And she's been on this tour. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. I didn't know if it was going to be like a traditional stand-up show or anything like that. And it turned out not to be. It was more similar to what she did on her late night show. She had a big projection screen behind her that would show pictures from her life or, funny little graphics or, clips and things like that. Where she just discussed women's issues in this day and age, specifically around abortion and lack of research and discussions about women's health care in general. And of course was done in a comedic fashion. Again, very similar to her show where she's presenting something, with facts and figures and an actual issue, but adding some comedic spin on it. Because, you got to laugh through the pain and all the problems. But no, it was a very good show. It was very quick. I was surprised. It was only about an hour because she had no opener or anything like that. And so I went into the show at like 7. When I left, it was still very light out. I was like, wait, what? I was expecting it to be dark and I'd be, ready to go home and, start getting ready for bed or something. No, but it's not that the show was bad or anything. An hour is a good amount of time for, a comedy show. Generally, stand-up shows are about the same, but of course they have an opener, so that adds some time to it. But yeah, again, not a problem, just was interesting. And yeah, really good show. I was happy that I was able to attend. The crowd was good. And very good show overall. But that's about it for my life. Everything else pretty boring, so I'm not going to share it with you, but we will instead dive into the news. All right, big national news, of course, unless you've been living under a rock. Our former president is facing a federal indictment for the first time in our country's history, although probably shouldn't be the first time this ever happened, specifically thinking about Richard Nixon. But yes, the federal indictment against Donald Trump and one of his aides, whose name is Walt Nauta, was unsealed on Friday. Obviously, I recorded Friday's episode before this happened, even though it was expected that this indictment was going to be coming down over the weekend. The indictment was unsealed, and so we've gotten some more information about it. So you might not be privy to some of the details, so I'm going to go over them real quick, because obviously this is a unprecedented, as everything is with Donald Trump, moment in our country's history. And obviously, again, everything involving him is going to be polarizing to some extent, because you have his backers who just, no matter what he does or does not do, or is accused of doing, or just going to assume it's some kind of conspiracy against him or, whatever. So this is as if we aren't tired of this crap already with him and everything surrounding him. This is going to be going on for a while, but innocent to proven guilty, of course. However, if you look at the indictment, it is pretty damning, and it's far worse than a lot of people you may see on the internet claiming it is. Again, a lot of those people just haven't read the indictment, or like I said, just don't care. It doesn't matter what he's been charged with, how much proof there is. You remember that comment where he said something about he would be able to shoot someone or murder someone in the middle of New York City and he would get off scot-free because that's how much his supporters are loyal to him. Some of us may call it a cult, but it seems true. It doesn't matter what he's accused of. And don't get me wrong, there has been some times and some quote unquote controversies where I think things have been overblown with him. So I get it. To an extent, where there are some things where like, are we really making this big of a deal out of this thing, or whatever it may be? But this, again, assuming what's in the indictment is true, it is pretty damning and pretty bad. So here's what we're looking at. Trump is currently facing a total of 37 counts, including 31 counts of willful retention of national defense information. The former president, who, of course, has denied any wrongdoing, is expected to appear in a Miami courthouse on Tuesday afternoon. So we'll have some more information about, I'm sure he's going to plead not guilty, and maybe we'll get some more details about the impending case. He's accused of showing classified documents on 2 occasions to other people. He also showed allegedly a classified map related to a military operation. He showed this off at his Bedminster golf resort in August or September of 2021. He's also on tape discussing something involving a possible military plan of attack that we had. And on that tape, he basically admits that he did not declassify it and he can no longer do so because he wasn't president. This recording happened in 2021 after Joe Biden was now the president. So he admits that he didn't declassify something and that he can no longer do it. So he is aware of the rules, which he has said all through these accusations that these documents are mine. I declassified them. I was the president. I can basically declassify them with my mind. I don't have to say anything or sign anything. I just in my mind, and now they're declassified. Well, this shows he knows that that's not actually the case. Now, that recording, even though there's a transcript of the recording, I haven't heard it. No one really has heard it outside of, I'm sure, the people involved in this case. So, I have to put out all those allegedlys and who knows and, that kind of stuff. But again, if it's true, that's what it shows. Trump also allegedly kept classified documents in various places at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida, including, according to the indictment, in a bathroom, in a ballroom, in a shower, in office space, his own bedroom, and a storage room. Other classified documents were found spilled out of the boxes on the floor of the storage room. So, yes, they're in weird places, and it's kind of silly to think that he's stashing things in his shower somewhere. But what's not funny about that, of course, is that it seems that these were readily available for the most part to not just, staffers or employees at Mar-a-Lago who don't have the authorization to look at these things, even if they're declassified, in my mind, as Trump says. But could have been easily accessed by people who were staying at the resort, or if someone broke in or whatever. They weren't stored particularly well. All of that, of course, is damning and not good. But as we know, there have been former presidents, vice presidents, and others who have, most recently Biden and Pence, were found to be in possession of some kind of classified or sensitive documents that weren't particularly stored well either, necessarily. So that's bad. And if we wanted to buy the books, they could all be charged or, punished in some respect for that. But it appears the National Archives and the feds, they give these folks a benefit of the doubt. Hey, we're missing some documents we think you may have. Can we take a look at such and such, your home or your vacation house or this office that you have? The big difference, of course, is that both Pence and Biden allowed these searches to happen. They didn't allegedly obstruct justice of any kind. They didn't really push back. Once those documents were found, it was announced, hey, they did have these documents, and that was the end of it. And if Trump had just turned these things over willfully, we wouldn't be looking at what we're looking at. And that's the biggest difference between Biden, Pence, and Trump, is that the other two didn't really seem to be putting up any kind of blocks or trying to stop people from getting these documents or making any claims like, these are my documents, I should be able to keep them, I declassified them with my mind, and things like that. Now again, Pence, his documents came from being a vice president. Biden's, I think, were when he was also vice president, or maybe there were some old ones from when he was a senator. Regardless, they wouldn't be able to declassify anyway because of their rankings, but it didn't matter because, yes, by the book, all three could be in trouble in some capacity for retaining documents they shouldn't have. But again, it seems that the National Archives and anybody who may be investigating these things gives them the benefit of the doubt, allows them to turn things over, and kind of goes like, hey, shouldn't have done that. If you're in a position to do that again, make sure you don't. Done. End of story. But the pushback by Trump and not allowing them to go in and look for documents led to them, you know, basically showing up with a warrant. So that's the biggest difference, and that's detailed here in this indictment. There's also parts of the indictment saying that Trump and that aide I mentioned before, well, not Trump specifically, but he had asked the aide and others to move documents once they heard that they were being looked for, or there might be a quote unquote raid, coming, and so that also is particularly damning. Now, to bring it to the local level, no surprise, um, Trump's biggest lapdog, Senator Lindsey Graham, said on Sunday that the federal indictment against Trump won't change his support for the former president, but added that he's not justifying his behavior, which, if you're still supporting someone for having crappy behavior, you are indeed justifying the behavior. Graham, in an interview with ABC News, did not directly defend Trump's actions. Instead, he tried to equate the conduct to that of Hillary Clinton and others. So that's the other thing you're probably seeing online is this Hillary Clinton's emails, the whole server she had in her home, all that's coming up again. People are trying to equate what Biden did with documents and Pence did with documents to what Trump did. And it's just not a one for one. Again, because of what I discussed before. And also, no surprise, Representative Nancy Mace debased herself as usual as she defended Trump, saying this is, a using the Justice Department to settle scores or, whatever, and also made some unfounded claims about President Joe Biden. On the same day that the indictment came down for Trump, this group of Republicans claimed that they have proof that Biden accepted like a $5 million bribe or something from Ukraine. And they've just have not provided any evidence of this whatsoever. So I'm not saying it's not true. It's just they're saying these things without providing any evidence. So what are you supposed to do with that? So she repeats those claims. She also made some wild claims like a month ago. She was doing one of those walk and talk, like Twitter and Instagram videos where she was making these ridiculous claims that the Biden family was tied to. It doesn't matter because, again, there's no proof. You can go look it up if you want to. But here's a big thing. If all that stuff about Joe Biden that, Nancy Mace and her counterparts are saying is true, or that if Hillary Clinton did things similar to former President Trump, and I'll be honest, I haven't looked into but her emails controversy in a long, long time. If they obstructed justice, if they did the same things Trump did, or in the case of these Biden allegations, a different crime altogether, most people would be like, okay, then they should go to jail and they should be punished. This isn't the own or the explanation or the excuse you think it is. Those of us who voted for Joe Biden don't pledge any loyalty to him. We're not in a cult. He was an option. It was either him or Trump. And we decided for whatever reason, we're voting for Joe Biden. And everyone had their different reasons for that. And he won the election. We don't care. I mean, we care if he committed crimes, but we don't care if he's punished for them. We are not in a cult. We are not going to defend Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama or any Democrat or whoever if they committed a crime. We're not going to go on the internet and whine and complain that things aren't fair and that our guy would never do this. No, we would be totally fine. We actually believe in people being held accountable for doing things that are wrong. So go ahead. Say Joe Biden should be arrested. Again, if these allegations are true, he 100% should be. And I would be on board with it, and I'd be calling for his arrest. It's that simple. If there's evidence that a crime occurred, most reasonable people who are not in the cult of Donald Trump would be all for that person going to jail and facing consequences. And that's the big difference here. It's weird how obsessed people are with Donald Trump and how they will defend everything he does and explain everything away. Most people aren't even at this point trying to defend him anymore, saying he didn't commit a crime. They're basically admitting he committed the crime, but now they're trying to walk it back to say, oh, but it's not fair because, Biden and Pence and Hillary. Well, okay, fine. Maybe it isn't fair. Maybe they should face wrongdoing too. It doesn't change the fact that Trump deserves to be indicted based on the evidence that's been gathered so far. Again, may turn out to be innocent, may not face any punishment, depending on how this plays out. But at this point, just saying other people may have committed crimes too doesn't mean that you shouldn't charge this crime. All right, a couple quick updates before we say goodbye in this episode. I know the national news kind of dominates everything, but we talked about South Carolina legislature was behind on the budget. Going into the special session, they were more concerned about passing an abortion ban that has already been challenged and may be deemed unconstitutional again, but they finally did come to an agreement on the state budget. The South Carolina House and actually senators as well, reached an agreement on the state's $13 billion budget on Thursday, just 24 hours after a tense meeting where both sides appeared to be very upset with each other and looked like we might be at a stalemate. However, Thursday was a different story. There was one sticking point left, which was how much money to give Clemson University to make progress on the state's first veterinary school. That went to the Senate, which set aside $102 million for that project. The House spending plan had about $8 million. So still a pretty big difference there, but it appears that it's going to go forward. There were some other accomplishments that were done. $100 million toward a continuing effort to lower state income tax rates, this time from 6.5% to 6.4%, as well as salary increases for almost all state employees and most state law enforcement officers and teachers as well. The budget includes more than $1 billion to help the Volkswagen-backed Scout Motors build a plant for electric SUVs near Columbia, and about $120 million was going into a fund to help rural districts build schools. So some good stuff in there. Glad it's passed, of course, because the new budget starts on July 1st. They were running out of time. Both the full House and Senate have to approve the compromise. Then it is sent to the governor, who can veto individual items. The General Assembly, though, can put those items back into the spending plan with a 2/3 vote. So not 100% done, but, for all intents and purposes is on its way to being completed. And that is certainly a good thing. Another update on the Union Pier proposal. I'd mentioned there was a meeting going on. Well, the last week, the Charleston panel in charge of reviewing development plans for Union Pier has decided to slow down the process by a month after hearing from residents who are concerned about the project's fast pace. But this break, while it is welcomed by many people, at least that's what it seems, isn't likely to disrupt the state ports authority's timeline for selling this waterfront site. The state ports authority, by the way, they want to sell the 64-acre cruise ship hub by the end of the year. Before that happens, though, the agency wants the city to approve a nearly 400-page document called a planned unit development that outlines how the property can and cannot be redeveloped. At the meeting, hundreds of people showed up. This was held on June 7th. The city's planning commission held this meeting, and they allowed people to express their opinions about this huge redevelopment project, which could potentially reshape a huge section of our waterfront area downtown. The commission said it'll wait another month until the week of July 10th before making its recommendation to City Council, which has the final say on what the plan, if the plan is approved. And lastly, fentanyl traffickers could soon face decades in a South Carolina prison and years more if they're caught with a gun, under legislation that aims to try to curb this rising overdose crisis we have in this country and this state. A 103-1 vote on June 7th by the House of Representatives sent the bill to Governor Henry McMaster, who is expected to sign it. The bill threatens up to 25 years in prison for a first conviction of trafficking less than 14 grams of fentanyl, which is about half an ounce. A second conviction comes with a mandatory 25-year sentence. The punishment escalates to as much as 40 years for people caught with 28 grams or more. Now, currently, there is no state crime specifically for fentanyl, which, if you don't know, is a deadly synthetic opioid that is described as being 50 times stronger than heroin. Just 2 milligrams can be lethal, depending, of course, on a person's size, tolerance, past usage, etc. That is according to the Federal Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA. The drug killed nearly 1,500 people in South Carolina in 2021, which was more than cars or guns, and accounted for more than 2/3 of all fatal overdoses that year. This is according to the latest data from South Carolina's public health agency. So yeah, if something in this country is killing people more than cars, which so many people use every day, and there's so many accidents, and also kills more, not the numbers combined, but separately, kills more people than guns in this country, yeah, it is a problem, of course. And unlike some other, health problems that may kill people, where there's so many factors, people's own personal decisions about what they eat, how much they exercise, and things like that, fentanyl is something that may be laced into other products, which is not excusing away people's drug use, of course. But this is something that can certainly be curbed a little bit easier than some other public health issues. So glad that there is some movement on this to really try to punish people who are found to be trafficking fentanyl. Hopefully that'll deter them from wanting to provide this drug, sell this drug, or lace it into other products. Or for those who don't realize that they might be selling something that's laced with fentanyl, maybe they'll take better precautions, because there are like test strips and things like that that people can use to determine if fentanyl is present in whatever they have. Uh, Now, of course, wish this whole extra tough punishment stuff would apply to other things. Like, I wish we had a hate crime legislation, which some people would complain that, oh, well, it's already illegal to say murder someone or assault someone. Why do we have to make it extra illegal by having a hate crime legislation that makes it a tougher penalty if the crime was based on someone's bigoted, racist beliefs about a group of people? Some of those same people all for this bill with tougher punishments. And of course, I'm going to talk about gun legislation as well. Yes, I know, the Constitution, but there are ways to limit gun violence that does not infringe upon people's rights, as we are well aware. But this state refuses to move on that. So this shows that the group can get together and make good legislation to try to prevent something that is harming the community, even if that is something that is more illegal, quote unquote, as we talked about hate crime legislation. So they can get behind these things, and they can 100% pass legislation that makes something even more illegal, in their words. So what's holding us up on the other types of crimes and public health emergencies that they could easily do the same thing for? So, although this is happy, let's keep this in mind when we talk about other pieces of legislation that we get pushback on. Because, oh, well, it's already illegal. Why do we have to enhance punishments? Well, you believe that enhancing punishments for fentanyl distribution would help curb that problem. So, clearly, this is something you believe in. So, just keep that in mind as we look at other legislation going on, or proposed legislation in this state. That'll do it for episode 134. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. If you want to support the podcast, you can go to holycitycenter.com/shop, or go to patreon.com/holycitycenter. Thank you, by the way. I've gotten 2 or 3, maybe, new Patreon subscribers over the last week. So thank you to all of you. I greatly appreciate it, and would love any more support anyone out there may have. Like I said, anything you can do with the podcast as well, whether it's liking, subscribing, rating, or just sending it to someone who may be interested in listening, is a great help as well. Thank you to Cole Collins with LMC Sound System for producing this episode of Holy City Center Radio. And a big thank you to Tyler Boone, whose music you hear in each and every episode as well. Can't wait to talk to you all again on Wednesday. Until then, good night and good luck.